Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful Friday morning. So welcome to the first workshop of the Code with Maps Hackathon. We are all very excited. We will have a guest speaker from Google's team here with us. So we are thrilled and excited to have you here to discuss the amazing opportunity that this hackathon holds together for all of us, not just developers, student developers, but professionals, startups. Everybody can participate. It holds a lot of things. We are going to discuss everything today end to end, along with our speaker for the day. So Hacktoskill, in collaboration with Google Maps platform, is proud to bring you the Innovation Hackathon, which is known as Code with Maps. And this is the workshop that in which we are going to discuss more about how you can integrate APIs and SDKs in your project and how easy is that process, right? At Code with Maps, we believe in the potential of coding to bridge gaps between connecting people and shaping better future using maps. Right? This hackathon is not just about writing lines of codes; it's about creating solutions that foster connections, right? Streamlining experiences and revolutionize the way we interact with maps and location data. So, without any further ado, allow me to introduce our esteemed mentor for the session, who will bring in wealth of experience and insight about the Google Maps platform. So today we have with us Sachin. Sachin is solutions engineer at Google Maps. Hi, Sachin. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Shakti.
So Sachin is there with us. Sachin is our mentor for the day itself. Quick round of introduction. If Sachin, you can introduce yourself, and therefore we can start with the session.
Sure. Hi, Shakti. Yeah. Um, Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today in the workshop number two, which is uh, Building for India with Google Maps platform. My name is Sachin Kanodia, and I'm the solutions engineer with Google Maps platform. I'm based out of Gurgaon, and I've been working for many years, working with several startups and businesses to help them use Google Maps platform and scale their operations. My first hackathon actually was hosted by Google, so I'm very excited to be here today to tell you about all the things that we have launched to help developers in India and see some great innovations that are happening here in India through this hackathon, and learn more about what are the important use cases that we can build and help you build here in India. So I think with that, I would start with today's agenda. Shakti, just wanted to make sure that the slides are up, if the participants are able to see the slides.
Yes, it's up now. Uh, they're able to see it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So as we move along, today I'm going to basically walk you through a bit of the developer's documentation, walk you through how do you set up account, get yourself familiarized with the GMP Cloud Console, and then and then walk you through a code lab using some of the APIs and build a representative use case for your business. So that's what we are going to talk today. But before we get started, I would um, quickly want to share why Google Maps is launching this hackathon in India. Like over the past year, we have launched a number of new APIs and products, which includes expansion of the Street View coverage in India, a new feature called Address Descriptor, which makes it easier to find and communicate addresses using the landmarks in Indian cities. What we have seen uh, uh, as a feedback come from many of our developers, startups, and enterprises is that in India we communicate, majority of us communicate through landmarks like my place is opposite this shopping mall, opposite this building, and things like that. So we have built this feature in the reverse geocoding API called Address Descriptor. Now you can request this information free of cost in the same API request, and get the information about the landmarks near a particular place or a location. And then more recently, in the recent next event, we launched a set of sustainability APIs, which are very, very important and crucial, which includes like the air quality indicators. What we believe is that these APIs are going to be really useful, especially for businesses and industries like e-commerce, the social startups, and uh, uh, the mobility startups that continue to grow in India. We also believe that this community is best positioned to help us understand like what type of new solutions or new innovations that you're creating, and what are the basic business problems or the end user problems that you're trying to solve. So this is an opportunity for us to also learn back from you. With that, I would move on to um, some of the uh, documentation stuff, like what is the how do you as a developer uh, get started with Google Maps platform, what are the resources that are available to you, how do you get started with Google Maps platform. And if you have any specific questions, you can keep them coming in the comment section, or just post it. We can take the questions, logical questions, as we move along. If there are things that need to be addressed, we can have a Q&A later as well. After the session, we can have a dedicated time slot for Q&A as well. So let me bring up the developer documentation for you. Let me know when you see my screen.
It is there. Yes.
All right. So if you go to developers.google.com/maps, that is the place where you get the Google Maps platform documentation. There is a link for the documentation. So just I would quickly walk you through what exactly you can get from here. What are the resources that are available? So here you will get, there are some useful links on how to get started with Google Maps platform. So you have this getting started with Google Maps platform. You have the API picker. So all the set of APIs, along with the use cases, in terms of what are the specific use cases that you can build. If you have a use case, then does a Maps SDK serve that use case better, or you want to build with JavaScript API, or you want to use any of the directions API or the places API. So this is like a useful a guide which helps you pick the APIs for your specific use cases that are available, and it also tells like whether it's an SDK or a web service, or also accessible through the JavaScript API. So this is another section that is important. Once you decide which APIs to pick up, you can also look at the pricing. So what is the pricing? How does the billing happen? How do you look at the price for that particular API? There are APIs where it's categorized into different sections, like the Places API has different levels of information based on which you are charged. So you could look up at the pricing for these specific APIs. So this is all available publicly in the public documentation that you can go through, and it provides you details on how the charges are made. Then you have security and compliance, reporting and monitoring. Like if you want to check and monitor the usage, any of the reports that you want to get in terms of usage, you can go through it. FAQ is particularly very important. These are set of exhaustive set of questions that could help you answer most of the questions, whether it is related to our APIs or the platform itself. And then understanding the terms of service, how do you use it, if there are any usage limits, any billing related questions, generic platform related questions, errors and troubleshooting. If you have any issues, how do you troubleshoot that? So this section would definitely be very useful for getting an early understanding, and then what are the most prominent and basic questions that you typically see for Google Maps platform. Then, if you are still not able to get answers to these questions, you could you have there are other channels like the support channel. Like, how do you get support from Google Maps platform? So you could, like, documentation is the first step, as I said. FAQ is the next one. You could ask questions specifically on the Google Maps platform on Stack Overflow. If there are any incidents or known issues that we already have in our database, you could search, and if you do not find, you could also report it. If you find a bug or you need a new feature, you could raise a feature request or a bug as appropriate. And then you can also reach out to our support team. So you could raise an issue to our support team saying that this is not working as expected, or you are getting some errors, exceptions. So this is a good place to get support in case you are not able to get answers to your questions. We also have incident management, like if some of our services are down, you could report that as an instance. Of uh, uh, the services being down, and then this uh, details out how the communication happens. Once you report it, you could keep track of that through the support ticket that is created. We also have a dashboard where you can check the status of the services. If there is already a known issue and we are trying to mitigate it, you can get information about that. So this is basically a set of useful resources around platform information about pricing, about support. In terms of the APIs and SDKs, what do we have in the offering? We have classified into three different sections. The maps. So if you need to create a map and work with the map, there are a set of APIs and SDKs that are available. Then we have routes. If you want to navigate from A to B, you want to get directions, you want to get distance matrix. We have a set of APIs um, called Directions API and Distance Matrix API. Most of you might already be familiar with it. And we released recently a new API called Routes API, which includes two-wheeler mode of transportation. So this is a new API that you can try it out. This is advanced version of Directions API. And then we have Roads API, which you can use for um, uh, like snapping points to a road, getting your GPS coordinates aligned to a road, and things like that. And then we have places as a service. So you can get information about a place like a POI, like you want to search for shopping malls in a particular location, you want to search for schools or museums or any of these important POIs, then you can call the Places API. It is available as a set of a web service. It is available through the JavaScript library. You could use the SDKs for Android and iOS. We have geocoding, which is another important API where you can convert an address to a lat long or a lat long back to an address. There are some newer APIs like address validation where you can validate the different components of the address, and time zone APIs. As I mentioned in the previous slide, we have recently launched some of these newer APIs like the air quality and the solar API. These are mostly around sustainability areas that we have released. And then we also have some industry solutions like for the mobility space, like ride sharing and delivery. There are custom solutions that are available. And then you have additional resources like What are the API security best practices? If you want to check for map coverage, like what's the map data coverage, which countries does it cover, you can get all of that information here. We also have optimization guide. You want to optimize the usage of the APIs, which API is better suited one versus the other, or in which scenario which API should be used. So this is like a good way to look at optimizing. Once you have built the solution, you can look at optimizing your APIs. And then there are set of other informations, like what are the different launch stages, which stage an API is, whether it's an early testing phase, early preview phase, or it is launched for production use. So you can get information about which API is in what stage, and then we have like the deprecation policy if we are deprecating some of the APIs or any specific function, then you can get information from here. So I think this was just a quick overview on how to navigate through the documentation and get details. I would also now like to quickly show you how to uh, uh, navigate through the GMP Cloud Console. So um, to go to the uh, GMP Cloud Console, you can say console.cloud.google.com/Google, and then you should be able to uh, go to the Cloud Console, right? So as soon as you go to the Cloud Console, you should be able to see um, a set of projects if there is a project, or there is a quick access, like where you can access all of this. So from the left side menu, you can go to the Google Maps platform, and you can directly reach Google Maps platform dashboard page. So yeah. So here what we have done is we have revamped our onboarding experience. So now you would see a step-by-step way to get quickly started with Google Maps platform. So there are a set of steps that you can follow to build your first map. So the first step is the setup, like how do you do the account setup, enable APIs, um, and then you can also customize the experience. Like you can answer a few questions, like what kind of use cases do you build, and then we can give recommendations around some of the sample codes and APIs that you could make use of. And then you could just try to use some of the already available samples or low code solutions that are available. So this is like a quick starter for you. So we have a set of uh, quick starter samples that you can use and get started with quickly, right? So with that, I would jump on to the code lab, and then we will see that there are some steps that um, uh, is is required. What are the prerequisites? And we'll come back to this as we go along in the code lab. So we'll cover some of the questions, like I'm seeing in terms of credit card requirements and things like that for the account setup.
Hi, Sachin. Sorry to interrupt in between. So we've got a few questions in the chat which says
Mhm.
how to set up the account, which debit cards, credit cards would be used. So if you can help
Yes.
us with the process of signing up on the platform, the Google Maps platform itself, quickly, maybe 2-3 minutes, we can take and build up a new account. How's a new account set up, and
Yes.
therefore we then deep dive into the code base.
Yes, so I think the prerequisite section, I'll definitely cover that. So
Mhm.
I will get into the specifics of what is required from a code perspective. So I'll definitely cover that. So um, let me know if this is um, visible.
Yeah, it's live on screen.
Yep. Okay. So today, what we are going to do is we are going to build a nearby business search service. We are going to uh, search based on my current location or a given location. I want to search for a specific type of business. Let's say I want to have sushi today, and I just want to figure out like uh, what are the places, good places with good ratings nearby where I can have sushi around the location that I am currently on. So this is something that we're going to build today. Um, so um, the prerequisite for this is you should have the basic knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That's what we are going to use in the code lab today. Um, and then you need to have a billing account set up, and then once the billing account is set up, then you need to enable the APIs, like the Maps JavaScript API and the Places API that we're going to use. And then we also would need a key for the project that you have set up. So I think in the next section, we'll look at each of this. Um, so let's look at the billing account setup, right? So this was the specific question that was asked. So we'll um, go back to our Google Maps platform section, and then okay, let me. So, all right. So this is the section which would answer most of your questions around the account setup and the project setup. So the first thing that you would go to do is go to your billing account, um, and then in the billing account you have to select and use a credit card. Credit card is primarily for verifying the credentials. You would typically get a $200 credit every month that you use. So essentially, if you are within that limit, you should be able to use for all your hackathon usages. You should be able to use all of that for the purposes of the hackathon. So from the billing perspective, you go to the Google Maps platform. In the left hand menu section, see a billing. Uh, you would see a menu called billing. If you go to this section, you it would say go to your link billing account. If you have an account, it will show you a billing account. If you do not, then it would ask you to set up a billing account for yourself, right? So if you see, I already have a billing account here. If you do not, then you would require to set that up. So we'll say that go to that billing section, and then you say create an account, and then it is a very step-by-step process where you would provide all your details. You would set your organization, and then these are like the set of steps where you provide all of the details for us to verify, and then you provide the credit card details, and then once those are authenticated on our side, you would see a billing account set up for yourself, right? So I'm using an internal project, but this is pretty much like the set step-by-step process where you should be able to provide the details and set up the billing account. Once the billing account is set up, you would be able to see that in the billing section, right? So if you go here, um, you would be able to see all the billing accounts that are available for you. And then once you have the billing account, the next section is basically you create a Google Maps project. So that is the next step that you go on to create a project. So from a hierarchy perspective, you should have one billing account, and under one billing account, you can have multiple projects. Now, from a billing perspective, what I would suggest is that you should always have a single billing account for all your maps usage, even if there are like different teams or different groups that are using it. You should always have one billing account. The billing account would be a USD Google Maps billing account, which is different than your cloud billing account. And then under that, you can create multiple projects are basically a logical separation of what you want to do at the project level. The keys are tied to a project, so under a project you can have the API keys, and then you can manage it under a project. So if you have like two different groups, you can create two different projects, like group one project and group two project, and then each of them can have their own individual API keys. So I hope that answers some of the questions around the billing account, and the project setup that uh, that you have. Is there any specific question that we need to take uh, on this, on the billing or the project setup?
Sachin, it would be great if there's a space you can show that what all is accepted. Like for an example, you already said that we can accept credit cards, right? In terms of debit cards, we also accept Visas and Mastercards, right? So is there a way
Yes.
we can get any
So
credit card?
yeah, so I think we can definitely take this question in the FAQ section. I think it depends on, like, there are so many different types of cards that are available. There are chances that some of it might not go through. In general, most of the um, uh, uh, like internationally recognized cards are acceptable, but if there are some issues that you get into, there is always support. Like, you can go to the support section, and I'll also show you that section, to raise a billing related query, saying that if your card is not working or for some reason there is a transaction failure, then we would definitely be able to assist. Our support team would be actively able to assist you in case there is a problem with any of the card that is not allowed or disallowed. So I think we definitely handle it. We have seen that in the past, and we kind of handle that as and when we get these questions. But yeah, I mean, there are these regulations that come in, RBI regulations, and sometimes these some of this might not work as expected. But I think we can take them on a case-to-case basis, and maybe we can take some of these questions around specific type of credit card or debit card questions maybe later as we go down. So I think moving on, like from a billing account perspective, as I said, the topmost hierarchy is your billing account. Under the billing account, all your projects exist. So you can see right now in the screen, there are a set of like from the top, you can see that just on the right hand side of Google Cloud um, um, logo, you can see that there is a project drop down list. So from here, if you click, you can select or switch between projects. And if you want to create a new project, you can also create a new project from here. So you could switch between projects, and you can create a new project. Suppose, I mean, I've created my project called Sachin Maps, and this is what I selected. So once I select, I would be able to see the set of um, menus or options that are available. You can see the set of APIs and services. And then once the project, I have selected the project, the next step for me to be able to use any of the APIs or SDK is to have these APIs enabled. So when you come here, you see the list of all the APIs. So you can see from here what APIs do we need. I have already enabled Google Maps for JavaScript and Places API. So I just selected enabled APIs, and you can see Maps JavaScript API is enabled here, and Places API is also enabled here. So once you do this, the next thing that you need is the API key. So once the APIs are enabled, then you need the API key. So here you can create a new API key, or if there is an existing API key, you can just take that API key and use it. So I think the next thing that we are going to now do is all the uh, uh, steps are done. So what we are going to build today, so we are going to build a web page that displays Google Map. It displays the user location. So we are going to get the user's current location using the browser's native capabilities. And then once you get the user location, you will be able to we'll be able to do the find nearby places and display the markers on the map. And then the markers would be clickable. So once you click the marker, you should be able to get the detail of that particular place. So that's what we're going to build today. So the first step, create let's create a map and recenter or center it to the default location. So let me get to the code section of this. I hope all of you are able to see uh, the code. Is it visible, or should I increase the font size?
So it's on screen. It's visible to me. Just want to understand from the participants, the audience here. So are you able to see the screen size, or maybe is that fine? Something. Let me just quickly check from my side. That looks fine. We can go ahead.
Okay, so I would start with step one. So um, so this in the step one, what we are going to create is just a simple map view. Um, so we'll what we will do is the first step is basically including the maps JavaScript API, and then the API key, and a callback function. So we are doing it asynchronously. We are going to load the JavaScript asynchronously, and then a callback function called init map. In the init map, we would have so we would take a default location and then create a map object, and then um, in that particular map object, we need to pass in what is the document element, or what's the place where you would want to render the map. So we have a section where we are going to render the map. So this is the place where the map is going to get rendered. So this is the first step where you would start seeing the map um, in terms of displaying it. So this is pretty straightforward in terms of what you are going to do for the map display. Now, the next step that we are going to do is uh, basically identify the user location and display it on the map. That's something that we are going to do. So, in our same init map function, what we are going to do is basically uh, do a geolocation HTML5 geolocation call. You might already be aware that the browser has this capability, and depending on where you are using, whether it's a web browser or on a desktop or on a mobile phone, you should be able to get the user's location. So you first check if the uh, capability is available in the browser. If it is, then you start calling the current location. If it is not, then you basically handle this exception saying that the um, the geolocation is not supported in the browser. So we'll first look at what do we do when we get the geolocation. So once the current position or the current location is available, what we do is we basically center the map around that particular location. So we get the lat long, and then we set the center and the zoom level, and then we set the bounds for the map around this particular position that we have got. So this basically sets the location, and then once the location is set, we would also want to display a small info window, information window, which says that the location has been found. So we create an info window, set its position to the current position that we have received, and then we also kind of set the map center to that position, and then open the info window. Now, coming on to handling the error. So there are two possibilities when the error can happen. One is the browser doesn't support geolocation, or the browser does support geolocation, but the user has denied the permission. So in both the cases, you should handle the error. So while you handle the error, you can put it to a default location, or whatever is the specific user experience that you would want to build. So for now, we're just setting it to a default location, um, uh, and handling the error for that. And then we also display that the geolocation permission has been denied. You're using a default location, and that is a feedback that is shown on the map accordingly. So depending on whether the location is accessible or it is not, you basically decide and display this information on the map. So once this is done, you are now able to show a map, show the user's current location, and also display in an info window that the location is found. The next step would be to find places, let's say, where I can have sushi around that particular place. So let's move on to the step three. So here, what we are going to do is we would need access to the Places API. As you had seen, I had already enabled the Places API. Um, so to use the functions, you would need to add the Places library so that you can make Places API call. So you add the Places library, and then what we do is Um, Once we get the location and all of that is done, the next step is we do call a nearby place. So we call a function called get nearby place and pass the user's current location. Um, so in the nearby place, get nearby places, what we do is we build a request. So the request is we pass on the current location. So we need all the places around this particular location, and then we rank it by distance from that particular position. So if you want to display it as a list, you could display it as the list starting from the most or starting from the nearest place that you get and to the farthest. So if you want to display a complete list, that's also possible. And then you show a keyword or you use a keyword called sushi because that's the place that I want to search and filter on. So once this request object is done, you basically create a places service object and then make a call to search nearby. So in the callback, once you get the response, what you have to do is for each of the places that you have received, we'll create a marker. So we call a function called create markers, and then we iterate through all the places, and and then we display a marker. So um, yeah, in the marker object, you would need the location of each of the place that you got, pass the map object, and then also the title of the marker. So this would create all the markers, and then you would also now need to adjust the bounds because you now have multiple markers, so that all the markers are available. So for each for the uh, for the uh, places that you receive, you also extend the bound so that all of the markers bound are covered, and then you do a map dot fit bounds to basically have the map adjust according to uh, all the markers so that it's clearly visible in the screen. So now we have displayed all of our markers. The next step is to show the details. So I would then want to click on the marker and then get the details of it. So this is the final step. So essentially, what we are going to do is in the when you are creating the markers, you would then also add a listener like a click event marker click event listener. So when you click each of the markers, you would need to do a places detail call. So now I want to show the detail of that particular place, which means that here what I'm doing is I'm showing the name, the address, the ratings, the website name, and then if there are photos, then display the photos. So these are the details that I would want to show. So for that particular place, you basically make a request with the particular place ID because that's the unique identifier for that particular place, and then request for all the fields that you would want to display in the sidebar, which will have the details. So this is the request. You make the get details call, and then once the details are available, you would show the details, which is in the left hand side bar. So what we are going to do is on the click of the marker, once the details are available, you would show a info window and then also show the details panel. So once you get the place details results, you would display info window. So in the info window, we are showing the ratings, and then we also called the show panel. So in the panel, uh, we would um, we would pass on the place details results, and we'll say that okay, if the photos are available, then display photos. Then the name is displayed. Then if there are ratings, we would want to display the ratings. And if also there is a website detail information that is available, we would all append all of that information in the info panel on the left hand side, and then display the info panel. So let's look at the final result. So once all of this is done, then you can look at the final result. So I'll basically run this. So you can see that it has uh, found my location, and it says location found. Then it also displays all of the places which are nearby. When I click, it displays the name and the rating as the info window, and also on the left hand side info panel, it displays the details around ratings and um, formatted address and the name. Let's see if some of it has, yeah, so wherever the website details are there, it also displays the details of the website. So this pretty much covers what I wanted to do in the code lab today. I think there are a couple of questions, a set of questions that I do see coming in. Um, Shakti, do you want to um, have it in any specific order, like any specific order that you want me to go through?
Sure. What we can do is, then we also have Nancy with us. Hi, Nancy.
Hi. Hello, all. I'm Nancy. I lead our customer experience team for Google Maps platform. Sachin, if it works, had a chance to look through some of the comments. So there are a couple like theme ones. So I can maybe ask you the question, and then if you can help like
Sure,
answer for the group
sure,
if that works.
sure.
Just as a note, I did see like there are still, I think, I know Sachin, you walked us through kind of the API key setup, some of the billing details. I know there are probably still some additional questions. So Shakti, if you could like maybe throw in a couple of suggestions there. I know there's a lot of good content on the dashboard of the Hack to Skill site where you can actually get more details on like some of the account setup pieces. But just want to make sure like if people still have questions, we'll try to answer some of that in the comment section, as well as please go to the dashboard. But in terms of some of the technical questions, so Sachin, there's a couple questions in here around just overlays, like custom map overlays, polygons, how do you draw like chloroplasts, things like that. Can you talk a little bit about some of the like
Sure.
overlays
Yeah,
on the map?
sure. So yeah, so I think there is a set of a good documentation that is available. So probably let me just pull that up quickly and see if I can just walk that through so that everybody has reference to it. So you have set of overlays that you can do. Um, Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, I've pulled it on screen.
Yeah. So if you go to the developer documentation maps JavaScript, you see a good set of documentation in terms of what you can do here. So in terms of like the overlays, you have information which will tell you what you can do. So you can add the shapes like you were talking about, adding polylines, adding polygons, circles, all of that is possible. All you have to do is just, there are some sample code snippets here as well. So you should be able to do all of that. There are geometry libraries that you could use. There are some custom drawing libraries as well that you should be able to use, and all of that is available in the documentation section. Like the geometry library, if you want to do any geometry operations, all of that is available here. So this is something that you can make use of. As far as overlays, like I already kind of walk you through in terms of shapes. That's what you can do. If you want to have custom markers, there is an option for custom markers as well. And then there is also custom overlay, like if you want to just overlay like um, uh, imagery or a raster file, all of that is possible through the overlays that are available here. So I hope you should be able to kind of make use of the documentation and the snippets that are available to get you started quickly on this.
Great, thank you. There is one question here just about the like intent of the hackathon and what's built. So I'll just answer that really quickly and then maybe come back through all the kind of technical questions. But there are a couple questions here about whether the project should be a web application or a mobile application. So to answer that briefly, like it can be either. There is a when you look at the prizes section, there are a couple different prizes or categories that we're giving awards for. One is a mobile application. That does not mean that what your submission or what your project is has to be a mobile application, but it is one of the eligible categories that you can win. So hopefully that answers that question. So Sachin, we have a question here. In the geocoding API, how do we take a user-generated location and then display it after address validation?
So, so typically, if I understand the question and how typically I have seen this usage happen is, you would basically get a user location, which would be the lat long, and then from that you would want to generate the user address, right? So you would typically use our rev geocoding API or the reverse geocoding API, which is part of the geocoding API. So from the lat long, you get the address back. Once you have the address string, and you want to do a validation, which means that you want to validate if the different components of the address are like what's the confidence score. Basically, address validation helps you find out the confidence score of different components of the address, whether the street name that you have given, the pin code that you have given, or any of those different components that you have provided in the address. Do we have a match, or if there could be like spelling mistakes or things where we find either a partial match. So address validation returns you that. So you basically try to validate an address and see what's the confidence score of each of these components. Like if each of the components have a match, then it means that the address typically is a good address. But then it also gives you a sense that if there is like a mismatch, or we say that potentially this could potentially be a valid component, but we did not find it, then, or we did not find it at all in our databases, then it gives you a sense or indication that we need to double check this address, or there might be some issues where we need to hand it manually. So I think that confidence score helps you grade your addresses that you get in response back. So from that perspective, I think that would be the typical flow from a lat long to an address and validating that address.
Great, thank you. So we have one question here about geolocation control. So how do I add a geolocation control to Google Map to allow users to find their current location?
Yeah, so I think from a geolocation perspective, when we started or when we built this geolocation API, the browser capabilities were very, very limited. And geolocation API would help you get users' location, but now the browser and the mobile capabilities are really advanced, and it helps you get all of that. So typically, if you're using a web platform, like if you're building a web application, or if you're building a mobile application, what we recommend is use the native capabilities, which means that on the web you use the browser's navigator or the browser's geolocation capability rather than using the geolocation API, where you would get additional charges. You get the same capability in the platform free of cost. So you on the web browser use the browser's capability to get geolocation, as I displayed in today's code lab. You can call the navigator's geolocation function, and on the mobile you already have the option to get the location from the native mobile device. So I think that's these are the two ways in which you can use. Typically, if you do not have any of these surfaces, like if you have a POS device, like if you are having a device where you are making payments through a credit card or something, then in those cases, geolocation is typically recommended because you do not have the native capabilities, and in those cases we recommend that you use geolocation API. So depending on your use cases, you could make use of what is the best way to get user location.
Great, thank you. I am quickly realizing too we have probably more questions than we have time for, but Sachin, I don't know from your time if you have an extra 5 to 10 minutes, and we could try to answer just a few more. And
Sure.
then I think for this audience, what we can do is take the remaining questions and try to answer them offline and share this back with you. Okay, perfect. So the next question is about interactivity. So I know you spoke a bit about marker interactivity in the code lab that you just went through session, but the question here, and I don't know if there's more you'd want to add, but the question is, how can I add interactivity to a marker, such as displaying additional information when clicked?
Yeah. So you could decide what you want to display in the markers. Like when you click the marker, so you once you have the click event, you can handle the click event, and then you decide how do you want to show that. So info window is the most common way of showing it directly on the marker, or if you have any other place, like you have a side panel, you could show the details on the side panel as well. It's up to you to decide whether you want to show an information window, which is like a bubble that shows up on top of the marker. Um, what information you want to show? Typically, you would want to show the details of the place. So that's where Places API is very handy. It gives you a wealth of information. You could go through the documentation of the places details. It has a lot of information around a particular business that you would want to show. But if there is also any custom information that you have, you could potentially add it in the info window. It's all about creating the internal or creating the content for that, and then you just add it to the info window object, and then it would be able to display all of that information. You can style it in whatever way you want, so you could use your own custom CSS, or style it in a very different way. We also have like these advanced markers that have come up where you can also style the markers and the info window. It's totally up to you, like how do you want to do the styling of the UI elements that are present for the info window.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to quickly answer two kind of just general questions related to the hackathon and setup. So we have one question here. If we are addressing issues specific to India and certain APIs lack data for Indian regions, is it acceptable to substitute similar data from other regions due to the data gap? Yes, you're free to make up your data and kind of mock it up so that it is relevant for the solution that you're trying to solve for. For us, we're really trying to see kind of what is the solution, how are you innovating, but you can use dummy data if needed in terms of the demo itself for the prototype. There was also a question around what are the standard limitations do I need to set my API key in order to use it in my project? So again, I would just encourage you to look at a lot of the account setup documentation that is on the dashboard. But the couple of things that I would flag is I would make sure you restrict your API key. It is a best practice that we recommend to folks just to make sure that there isn't any accidental abuse of your API key as you're building your project. Okay, perfect. Okay, so going through the comments, the questions. So there's one here, but maybe Sachin, you can help me understand fully what's being asked here. But the question is, how will we know if a particular keyword is available to be searched?
Yeah, so typically we have in the places details. we have a lot of details about the particular business. So typically, um, whatever is the most popular keyword for the business that you're trying to search. So, for example, if it's a restaurant, then we have a lot of keywords that the businesses would provide for them to be able to get searched. So, what kind of a restaurant it is, what type of food that they serve, or is it specific type of food that is available. So, when you search by keyword, it basically does a search on different fields that we have for that particular business. So it's any of those are available either in the name or in the description or various keywords that the business provides. So the recommendation would be to to search with keywords that you find you can most easily associate with a particular type of place that you want to search, and then when you do a specific search, and if it doesn't return that particular response, then you essentially would get to know that this either this particular keyword that you used is not present, or there is no business with that particular keyword, and you may use a more appropriate keyword that uh, that you can identify that with that particular business. So that is something that you would typically kind of try to look for, and these keywords are basically like a free form search that we can have on our database.
Great, thank you. So let's maybe do just two more questions, and then Shakti, we can hand it back to you to wrap up the session. But the next question, Sachin, is around Street View imagery. So the question here is, what are the steps involved in integrating Street View imagery into Google Maps interface?
Yeah, so I think again we have some good documentation around Street View imagery as well. From a steps perspective, I think the steps pretty much remain the same. You have to enable the Street View imagery API in the console to be able to use it. API, if you, I mean, typically we recommend that the API key that you use allows specific APIs for that particular key. So if you have uh, uh, kind of enabled specific APIs, then you have to add it for that particular API key so that the services are accessible. And then from a documentation perspective, you can go to the Street View documentation. There are some sample snippets around it. So typically, what you would do is for a particular location, you would call the Street View imagery API call for a location, and then it would give, if there is Street View imagery available, then it would send in the response the imagery, and then using, if you're typically using like the JavaScript API, then you would be able to then set it on the map and render it on the map. So the steps are pretty much the same. Look at the request, what kind of inputs you need to provide, and then get the response. From the response, you are able to then set the right set of functions for Street View imagery to be displayed on the map.
Great, thank you. And then I do see like there seems to be continued questions just around the question of for the hackathon itself, should you build for mobile or is web appropriate? So again, the big thing or kind of the main thing that we're looking for is how you innovate and build and solve real problems, whether specific to India or globally, using our APIs. And if you look at the kind of award categories, that is kind of the top line category, top award that we'll provide. That being said, we do have a category specifically for mobile applications, because we know that in particular, that is a lot of the ways that users today interact with geolocation solutions. And so that is one of the prize categories, but again, it's not required in what you submit for the hackathon. Okay, so Sachin, I'm going to give you one final technical question, and then maybe we wrap for today, and then we can follow up offline. But the last question is, I had it up for a second. It was, I am getting there. How can you implement custom map integration with external data sources such as real-time sensor data or IoT devices in a Google Maps project?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, you can definitely integrate external data with Google Maps platform. So essentially, um, it is more about making the calls to get the data. So let's say if it is in form of an API, or if whatever way you want to make that particular call in your JavaScript, you can make the call, or in your mobile device, you just make the call, get the data, and then depending on what kind of information, if it is a point data, as we had seen that you can render or you can overlay the points, line, polygons, all of that is possible. Those geometries can be rendered. So you could potentially use that to render data. There is also something called as data layer, where you could potentially give all of the data and have it rendered on the map as a data layer. So you can make use of that. I mean, all of those options are available, and if you go through the documentation, you would find code snippets as well, which you could try it out to get started quickly on some of these. But that's totally feasible.
Great. Thank you. Shakti, we'll hand it back to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Nancy. Thank you so much, Sachin, for this interactive session here. I guess we have covered almost every question. The common ones are also addressed altogether. The rest of the questions we can take offline, and we can, send out an FAQ to all of you regarding all of your questions, right? Or emails. So you can check out your emails, which are coming through for the Code with Maps hackathon. So if you're already not registered for it and you're just looking at this workshop for the first time, please do go ahead and check that website out of Code with Maps. So it's hosted on Hack to Skills platform. You can check out the idea submission closing is on 4th of October itself. Before that, go ahead, register for it. And again, all the very best for everybody who's already participating. We look forward to your, projects, innovation that you bring to the table. Again, thank you everyone for joining us on this Friday morning, and of course, Nancy joining us late evening. And Sachin, thank you so much for this interactive session. We will see you guys around soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.